Hi everyone, and welcome to the sixth session of BOMA's Online Marketing Made Easy series. Welcome. We're now 3/4 of the way through the webinar sessions, and if you've missed any before, you can find them all on our BOMA YouTube channel, where we cover everything from how to create a brand for your business, creating an effective website, getting found online through SEO, and thought leadership, which was covered in our last session. My name is Charles Clark, and I look after the marketing here at BOMA. I'm joined today by Liz Studholme, who's our content manager. And between the two of us, we're very familiar with social media and we use it every day. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
A good topic today.
Yeah, fantastic. So just recapping where we've been over the last few weeks. As I said, we've covered quite a lot, and we're over on the right-hand side of the foundation for your robust marketing plan. So social media. And the reason that we're focusing on social media today is because we get a lot of questions from our customers and clients saying, look, I know it's important, I heard about it, but I'm just not sure what it's all about and how do I get started? So hopefully today we can take you through exactly why it is and why you should be on it. So we're going to do it pretty quickly as always. A quick rundown of what is it, why it's important. We'll have a quick look at the main social networks. We'll also give you some tips and advice on how to get started. And then we'll also look at what you should be posting on each network, because that's a question we often get is, do I post on Facebook the same content as Twitter? And the answer is sometimes, but usually not. And so we'll explain those differences. Great, so kicking off, so what is social media? You've all heard of Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Snapchat and probably 100 other sites. What it is really is it's a collective of online communications channels, and they're all about community-based input. So by that I mean that it's the users who join up to them, and it's their interactions with each other in terms of content sharing, collaboration, conversations. That's what creates the network effect. And so I suppose that's the great thing, is that everyone's on there, not just not just anyone from a particular industry or niche. It's sort of you can find a social network that will cover whatever it is that you're talking about, and many social networks cover many.
I'd add to that too, Charlie, that I think it's new and different audiences. You can sort of be you can really reach a wider audience through the people that you're already connected to. Your customers are already there, but you get to see and be engaged with them, and then be presented to their friends. So there's a real opportunity to be out in front of a much wider audience than you're currently seeing. And because it's fluid, it's not as static as your website, you can have a bit more of your personality there. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, obviously, your website is key, but really social media has become so important these days that, you really do need it. And we talk about sort of why you can't afford to be ignoring it. And I just thought an interesting stat we came across recently was that 74% of the world's users who are online are on a social media network at some point. So, I mean, that's just a huge audience sitting right there. And a lot of them aren't just on one platform, they're on multiple platforms. So I know for myself, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a couple of others. And I'm sure, Liz, you're the same. You have a few that you use all the time, and others maybe particularly, you maybe have LinkedIn for your professional career.
Yeah, and I think, and you dip in and out sometimes. But some of those platforms, when you start out, you're starting to get to know and you sort of follow, and as you get more familiar, you start posting or sharing or liking, etc. Yeah.
So I suppose in a nutshell, social media is great for a number of reasons. So we talk about brand awareness and getting in front of people. So it's such an easy way, other than your website, to connect with people. And if you have your profiles up on your social channels, then that's a fantastic way that people will say, if they're on Facebook or Twitter, they can search for you and they can easily find you. And then they'll be able to see, what you've been talking about, but they also will get a link to your website or maybe a way to contact you. or perhaps it's the opening hours that you have. So they're like, right, okay, I know that you're open these days, and here's your phone number, so I'll give you a call tomorrow afternoon. Also word of mouth. And I think that's, that's really moved online, and it can be everything from the reviews that people leave on your Facebook page to someone on Twitter says, I had a great experience with this company. That is so powerful. And you can't just sort of rely on people phoning other people and saying, oh, this company's great. To get the reach and the scale, it really has to be social media.
Yeah.
So on networking, I suppose we've all used it for that, and I think a great example of this would be you go to an event or a conference, and maybe before you've gone there, you have looked at who's speaking, and then you might follow them on, on Twitter, or possibly afterwards you connect with people on LinkedIn because you've been to the same conference, you share the same interests, and you'd like to keep in touch. In terms of amplifying your content, so this is content whether it's written by you personally or your business, and it could be everything from thought leadership pieces to a bit of a comment, to insights, to what you've been doing as a business in the last quarter. Social media is so powerful for you to put it out there and then have people come and find it and find you. And the best thing is that if they share it or like it, then that goes out to their audience and their friends. And so you can see how, you start off, you publish something, 10 people like it, and then all their friends will get to see it. And it's that sort of reach that is, social so effective for.
Yeah, I think that's true. And back to that, reviews, etc. It is that sort of casual endorsement, because we've all been on Facebook where we've seen your friend Bridget or likes, particular product, and that's put in front of you. And because it's someone that that likes it, that has a real, that's kind of like an endorsement of that product.
It's really that trust building, isn't it? You're always more likely to believe something or try something if a good friend of you says, I've tried that and I like it. You're much more likely to believe that than some random endorsement from someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I suppose the last portion of it, and it sort of continues on from the content and the application, is that it really positions you as a thought leader. So it gives you the opportunity in whatever industry you're in to really say, look, I'm an expert in maybe it's in quite a niche element, or maybe it's quite wide. And we talked about this with Viv Brownrigg last week. And that gives you, I suppose, credibility and a position within your industry. And the great thing about thought leadership is that, over time, as you build it up, people will say, fantastic, that's the person I will go to for information on this. And then that's how referrals come. People will start coming to you and saying, look, I know you're the person to see about this. Can we talk further? And, and in time become a paying client. So diving into all of the different channels, and we've limited it to the 4 main ones. And starting off with Facebook, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. And I think just a few things to say about Facebook is that it really is, it is the world's most dominant social network. And there's 2.13 billion
I think, yeah,
active monthly users. So
there's 5 profiles created every second or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still growing enormously quickly. So, when you hear that maybe it's not it doesn't have the reach it did, it does. And people are still spending, I think, 20 or 30 minutes per day on Facebook, looking at what their friends are doing, looking at what businesses that they follow are doing. So it really is a fantastic place. And if you probably only had one social network for your business, if you were just starting out and you said, what's the first one to start on? I would probably recommend Facebook. It's just so ubiquitous. Do you agree, Liz?
Well, yeah, and I also think there's a lot of people out there that if they're Googling you, say if they want to come and find you or talk to you about, it might be that you're in retail and people want to sort of give you a call. A lot of people will go to Facebook before they go to your website, and either send you a message that way, or find out where your opening hours are, or find out where your shop is. That's a almost now second to Google, or at least equal to Google in terms of where, or some other search engine is to finding out about businesses.
Mm. No, very true. And just to reiterate, the friendship network effect, you know, and so you can imagine if I like something and then everyone who follows me sees that I like it, they may say, oh, that's really interesting. They might check it out themselves. And so it's just a fantastic way for you to grow your reach. And if you think of, you know, if I'm a client and I have other friends of mine who like something that you've done, well, we're probably pretty similar. So it might be more likely that my friends are more likely to become clients because we share the same interests. We might be in the same industry. So it's a really effective way to to build your reach. I can't emphasize that enough, you know, without necessarily always having to pay for it. Although obviously you can do paid advertising on Facebook as well.
Yeah, well, and I also think that endorsement thing, word of mouth is obviously key, particularly with professional services. In Facebook, you can get your clients to post reviews, and not only, and my experience is that clients are very happy to post reviews because it gives their business a little bit of profile as well. And all you need to do is send them the link to your Facebook page, and they can post a review on the side, and that really you know, gives your company a bit of kudos and you know, you as the trusted authority. So it's you'll see that down the side of your Facebook page. There's posts and reviews there. If you go in there, you can get clients to go directly in and post a review about your business.
Yeah, great point. So we were talking about professional services, and obviously LinkedIn is pretty critical. And I'm sure even if you don't have one for your business page, I'm sure you probably have one for you personally, because it is the place to go for professionals. And I think there's over 500 million online throughout the world. So it really is just the place if you want to join groups, you know, improve your knowledge, reach out to connections that you've met, as we were saying, at events. And it's also a fantastic place where you can start to publish long form content. So if you've done a white paper or some research, or you've done some, you know, video interviews, you can put it all on LinkedIn and then promote it throughout your followers, or possibly you want it to go to people in a particular industry. You obviously can pay to promote it through them, but it's really where people do go to get educated and get insight on particular topics. So you really highly recommend a presence on LinkedIn, and definitely use it as a place to showcase your knowledge and expertise in your particular area.
And Charlie, would you agree it's worth having a business LinkedIn page as well as a personal one, because you may be only a team of 5 or 10 or whatever, but if your staff can then in their professional profile link to your business page, it gives you a sense of being established. It also means that you've got 2 places to share, so you can post as yourself and share on your business page, but you know, that amplifies it a bit.
Exactly, and I think also similar to being listed on say Google or Facebook, you know, to be taken, I suppose, to be taken seriously, you know, if someone searches for you, and especially if you're in professional services and you don't have a LinkedIn page, then you know, they might sort of say, okay, well, you know, it's hard to find out more information about them, and how seriously should I take them? So yeah, definitely worth, as you say, having that profile for those reasons.
And grabbing it before someone else does.
Yeah, very true. Yeah,
it's worth having your own sites, because there's bound to be someone else looking for a similar name.
I think it's maybe not as used as often as it should, but I think the groups in LinkedIn are fantastic. So if you're interested, say as I am, in marketing and advertising and technology, there's hundreds of groups that I can join. You know, some are very large, and others are quite small and might be invite only. But the idea is that you collect a whole group of like-minded people who are interested in something that you're interested in, and then you can have conversations. And you'd be amazed at how many times, you know, you're in a group and you meet someone in the group and you sort of start sharing ideas and concepts. Before you know it, they've either asked you for a job, or you're asking them for a job, or they've become a client. So I just think it's a fantastic way that you can network without having to leave your desk. You don't always have to go, if you don't have time, to sort of tons and tons of networking events. You can do it across the web, and this is just a fantastic way to do it. And there will be groups that will be, say, marketing globally or accountancy globally, but I'm sure there are also groups that are specific to, say, New Zealand, Australia, or the UK, so you can really get down and meet other professionals within both your industry but also your geographical area.
That's a good point.
So looking at Twitter, and I'm sure in this day of sort of Twitter, everyone posting on Twitter, and possibly American presidents going off script, you sort of can't escape it. But I think it really, even though sort of some people aren't sure how to use it, I think it really does have a place in some people's both personal and sort of professional lives. And the best way to think about it is that it's real-time micro-posting. So you're limited now to 280 characters. So it used to be 140, but they've doubled it. So you don't have to be quite as succinct as you used to be, but it's just a great place for you to comment on an article that you've read online, or maybe it's posting some content that you've written. So there's a ton of ways that you can use it. You can post short videos and photos. And the great thing about it is that you can also use it to follow other people. So just as you're posting thought leadership pieces and insights and making comments, if there are people within your industry or sector that you find really interesting who could be helpful for you, then it's really easy to follow them or to follow a topic. And then every time that they post or something on that topic is posted through a hashtag, you'll get that information. So it's really fantastic for staying current and up to date.
Actually, Charlie, that's a good point about Twitter, that if you are unsure about Twitter, even if you just start by following some industry leaders, and particularly if you're interested in content marketing and starting to send out perhaps it's via Facebook and LinkedIn at this point, and via email, some good content. Twitter's a great place to sort of mine for ideas about what's topical and what people are talking about at the moment. So it's a worthwhile, even just being a follower to begin with, until you get comfortable, and then you can start adding your own little pithy comments about things that are in the news or topical issues.
I think that it really is important to emphasize is that when you see people online and they seem to just be so easily posting comments and sort of as Liz said, pithy comments, they'd probably be doing it for a while. So don't worry, as you said, if you want to take your time and start small. You don't always have to post something controversial. You might just want to post something with I thought this would be really interesting, or I agree or disagree. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be hugely complicated. And as you find your feet, and not just on Twitter, but probably on all the different channels, you'll get more comfortable. You'll get more familiar with how to use them and how you want yourself or your business to come across from a sort of tone and brand perspective. Great. So the last one we'll look at today is Instagram. And I know many of you might be new to Instagram or haven't used it a lot before. I think it's important to say that if you're looking at targeting your audience, it's predominantly used by millennials and Gen Y. So sure, there are other ones you may have heard of, like Snapchat, which are sort of skew even younger. But I definitely wouldn't say that there are lots of people on Instagram who are kind of plus 50. It's just not not necessarily a social network that they've had a lot of exposure to. However, that doesn't mean that it can't be really powerful for your business. And obviously, as we all age and grow up, the people who started out being a millennial or a Gen Y and they sort of move into older age brackets, and they may stick with Instagram. So the nice thing about Instagram is that it's an easy way to make your brand, your company, or what you're interested in look really, really beautiful. So they spend a lot of time and effort making sure that from a presentation piece, your images will look as good as they can. So I suppose something that we'd highly recommend is on Instagram, you know, rather than say Twitter, where you could get away with posting, you know, same on Facebook, an image of an event that you've done. On Instagram, really recommend using high-res photos. So whether that's taken from your old pointer, you know, a point and click camera, or using something from an online library like Unsplash or Adobe, you know, having high-res images there really is important, because the image really is the main engagement tool on Instagram, rather than say on Twitter, it's what you've written.
Yeah, and most people's phones are often capable of taking. I would say that most of the photos that you see on Instagram now are taken from people's phones, and they're beautiful. So it is possible. You don't need to go out and get a photographer, and it doesn't also, I think, need to be restricted to a business that's all about product. It can be, you know, I think we talked the other day about FedEx, who have the most beautiful Instagram feed, and General Electric, that they can be about your personality as a brand, as opposed to just products. And because, you know, it's particularly if you're an accountant or bookkeeper, that's going to be quite limited. But it can be about I suppose, your personality and what you stand for.
Yeah, I think in terms of what you stand for, you know, those values and beliefs, I think, which are really key. And as part of a, you know, an accounting or bookkeeping firm, you know, trust is hugely important, and sort of other similar values. So promoting those sorts of things, and there's lots of ways to do it. You know, it may be causes that you sponsor or hold. It may be events that you operate with. There's lots of different ways to take, I suppose, to communicate visually the values and beliefs that you as a practice or a business believe in. And I think it's, and that can be really powerful for your clients to, just from a brand awareness perspective, you know, they'll begin to understand that, you know, what you really believe in, what you care about. And I think that forming of that connection between yourself and your clients, you know, will pay dividends down the track, you know, when they come onto your website or when you're talking to them, you know, that, you know, setting those as sort of, I suppose, those anchors can be really important.
Mm.
So we've just quickly covered the key main networks, and obviously, as we said earlier, the big question of what should I post on each network, I think is one that it's quite interesting to clarify. And I think, Liz, you're probably best placed to talk about this.
Yeah, well, we probably covered quite a bit of it, but yeah, Facebook is personality, and it's I guess, showing the human side of your business. So that might be that you're posting images of your team, or some community event that you've recently been to, or an event that you've held. LinkedIn tends to be more your company news, insights, and commentary. But Twitter, it is worth noting there that you can put images in Twitter, and images are always going to make your post more engaging. So so really worthwhile thinking about that. And then Instagram, I think we've probably covered with photographs, but yeah, again, you can do video, and you could do that on your phone. But I think, you know, that all of them are about creating relationships and building communities. So it's probably give first, sell second, and think about what your audience is really interested in. And then, you know, once you've established that, your end goal is going to be, I guess, is promotion, but you're doing it in a way that's kind of, it's either entertaining or interesting or useful, and that way you're going to get more engagement.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You can't use these platforms and use them just to basically take. You have to give, and I think, you know, if you give, as Liz was saying, if you give people useful information, if you make them laugh, if you engage them, you know, they're much more likely to reciprocate. And by reciprocate, we obviously mean, you know, buy something from you, whether it's a product or a service, which is obviously part of you know, why we do social media marketing.
Mm.
So how do I get started? I mean, it doesn't need to be all that difficult. And I suppose one of the first things we say is, you know, if you don't have any social channels, just dip your toe in the water and pick one channel, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. Pick one and say, okay, well, I'm going to make this month, I'm going to make it about getting familiar with that channel. We're going to post a few tweets or a few blog posts, take a few photos and put them on there, and find your feet really. And it doesn't need to be, you know, I'm going to do everything all at once, you know, all 4 channels, because that might be overwhelming. So yeah, definitely start with one, and as you build your confidence, you know, you can keep going. I think to Liz's point earlier, a really easy way to understand how people are using it and to get use from it yourself is follow people that you're interested in, whether it's companies or industries or topics, you know, and then you'll see how they're doing it, how they're posting on Twitter, what they're talking about, what their followers are finding interesting and useful.
Mm.
So in terms of, you know, we talk about customers, it could also be followers or clients. If you were in an accounting firm and for your particular accounting firm, you realize that your clients, you know, none of them or none of the people that you would like to be clients are on a particular social network, say none of them are on Instagram, then unless you're particularly interested in that, there's not much point being on there. You know, much better to sort of be where they are. So maybe speak to a couple of your clients, or maybe if you do some online research, see what profiles they have. You know, do they have a Facebook profile? Do they have a LinkedIn profile? It's a really easy way to just find out where they are, where they're hanging out, what they're following, what they're interested in. And you'd be like, right, okay, so I know that, you know, the majority of my clients are on Facebook and LinkedIn, so that's where I'll go.
Yeah. And probably they're understanding who your ideal customer is, the one that, you know, you for the work that you do, you get the best return and you enjoy working with, and you know, that's a good discussion with your team, regardless of how you're doing your marketing, because you'll start targeting those particular people.
Yeah, I think one thing that we do need to make really clear is that unlike some traditional forms of media, which are all one way, so if you think of radio or TV, you put up your TV ad or radio ad, and then it goes out and your audience hears it, but they can't respond. So social media is all about two-way communication. So if you put something out there, or if your clients get in contact on social media, you really need to be responsive. So you can't ignore them. So whether they said something great about you, fantastic. Say, you know, thanks, and we love to help you, and how can we help you more? Equally, if they say something, you know, like I didn't have a great experience, the worst thing that you can do is ignore that, because obviously, again, because of that network effect, people will see that you ignored it. So the best thing to do is front foot it. Yeah. So if someone says, look, I didn't have a great experience, they say, look, I'm really sorry, how can we help you? And we'll sort it out. And amazingly, it has the effect, whereas if other people see that you're responsive and you help your clients and you listen to them, that has this amazing effect where they're like, okay, they aren't a faceless sort of business where my concerns aren't going to be taken seriously. They'll know that you're human, that you'll respond, that you'll help them out. And that is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes, being able to, and you know, when something pops up at 8 o'clock at night, and it probably won't, but if you do get one of those comments, and it does sometimes happen at that sort of time of night, take a breath before you respond, and try and respond in exactly that way, in a light kind of, we're there to help and we want to sort it out, and if you can lighten the mood, you may just turn the whole thing around. So yeah, don't be tempted to respond in the same tone, because I think it does speak volumes of your company that you're, you know, standing up and saying, yep, we'll fix it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that, you know, because you'll never win online. Because so just as Liz said, be positive, be responsive, and sort the problem. And that actually, I can think of so many examples where there was a problem, the company was responsive, and they took possibly a potentially negative PR situation and turned it into a massive coup, and they got much more coverage and positive feedback than they would have otherwise. So, you know, see every response, I would say, as an opportunity, you know, to engage your customers, to understand them, understand what they're about, and what, you know, what problems they have, or what they're trying to achieve, and that will probably help you in other forms of your business as well. And the last one is don't do social media in a void. You know, look at what you did yesterday or the week before, and if you see that something's working and got great response, you know, there's obviously a reason for that. Was it that the picture on Instagram was super, you know, engaging, or the tweet that you put out, the topic was just what your people, your followers, your clients are afterwards. So look at what was working, and equally, what's not working. Was it the time of day? If you posted it at 3:30 in the afternoon, maybe all your clients were sort of busy rushing to pick up their kids from school. It could be anything. Maybe you should post it a little bit later on when they've got home and they're taking a breather when the kids are for bed. So it'll depend on who your clients are, and you'll get a feel as you post more and get more content. You'll get a feel for when they like to respond and when they're online. Great, so that's about it from us. I know it was a quick journey, but hopefully you got some useful information and insight out of it. We're down to the last 2 sessions, which is amazing. It's gone so quickly. So next week we're looking at the marketing plan. So we've taken you through quite a lot in the last 6 sessions. So now we're going to really, I suppose, quickly talk about how you can sort of take all the disparate elements that we've talked about, the SEO, the branding, social media and thought leadership, and sort of craft it into a plan so that you can either individually or within your team, within your organization, say, look, okay, this is what we want to do over the next sort of, maybe it's a month or 6 months or a year, and let's put some plans in place and let's start taking those steps along that journey. Because obviously, what we don't want to happen is that you sort of have all the information and then, without a plan, you won't be able to put it into practice. And, a year from now, you'd be saying, oh gosh, we really should, start that thought leadership, or we should do some social media. So hopefully next week we'll sort of give you the tools that you need to put what we've been talking about into practice. So thanks so much, Liz, for joining us, and thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay, bye.